world of e-commerce can be tricky, and that's why you need the experts to help take you to the next level. This is Delivering E-commerce, and this is Chris Parsons.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Delivering E-commerce. I'm your host, Chris Parsons. It's been a fantastic run in 2022. I now have the pleasure of hosting a special guest today, Paola Bianchi. Paola, thank you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. It's been a long day for both of us. We've already chatted a little bit, and I'm looking forward to our audience hearing your journey, your story. And once again, thank you so much for taking some time out of your evening to be here with us.
Well, no, thank you for the invitation. Honestly, I appreciate every opportunity we have to both share and also educate ourselves, because I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, and I honestly enjoy hearing about other people's journeys as well. So hopefully it can help anyone at least share the misery together.
That's right, 100%. And that's a great segue into what I get to do with all of my guests, and that's talk about their own personal journey, because everyone really, I try to make sure they understand that there is no A to B on this. This is a really fun journey in retail, and it takes you sometimes in paths you didn't think. And then, you know, I never ever thought I would be leading e-commerce in my whole life. And actually, when I was a kid, I didn't even know what e-commerce was. So
I don't think it existed when we were kids.
That's right. That's right. So it wasn't into my 20s until we started to gain an appreciation for e-commerce. So anyways, without any further ado, let's get into your journey.
Sure. Actually, I can echo much of what you just said. So a little bit of my background. I'm from Argentina. I immigrated into Canada in 2008. And I've always worked in marketing. But the funny part is that when I started, because in Argentina, we work while we go to university. It's not like most people's journeys here, where they focus on their studies and then they start internships and then they start working. For us, it's always part-time, or I would say 90% of the time. So that's something I would say a little bit unique, but also very rewarding. Yes, it's a little bit more challenging, but it's also rewarding because you get to apply right then and there what you're learning in school. And this is undergrad, right? So when I started, I thought I wanted to go into finance, and no. And then I started, I was working for Budweiser at the time, and I discovered the wonderful world of marketing, and I fell in love with it. I actually fell in love with, I would say, giving consumers an experience. And I know it sounds like big words now and kind of like buzzy words, but it's truly what it is that whatever product I worked with in all of my journey so far, my biggest passion was to make sure that I'm not just bringing a product to someone, but rather either a solution, an experience, or something else. And I think that has a lot to do with this passion for retail that, much like yourself, discovered a little bit as we went along. So I started, like I said, in the consumer market with beers. It's a conglomerate in Argentina that takes care of multiple brands of beers. Then I was very young, and I decided to explore a little bit what the world of marketing had, and went into an ad agency, which I hated. It's just not for me, like I feel like, and it's a good thing to have tried different things, because then you get to figure out what you like, what you don't like, and all of that, right? So that was not for me.
It's funny, as a marketer, I felt the same way. Coming out of college, the recommendation was to apply for marketing in ad agencies. And lucky enough for me, my first real career was within Walmart and doing marketing for them, so I didn't have the experience of the agency, but I definitely worked with a lot of agencies, and I don't admire the work that they have to do. It's much better being on the retailer side doing marketing than an ad agency side.
Exactly. Like to me, what happened was that you're either very creative and you love to live in that theoretical space, or you're hands-on and you want to bring products to market.
Yeah.
So I'm more like that, and that's why the advertising world didn't appeal to me, because it was all very theoretical. Like there was no engagement with the outcome of a campaign, for example, or like you have agencies that walk along with you and all of that, but it's still not their product.
Right.
So that's the part that didn't appeal to me. So then he said, okay, so I know the consumer aspect of it. What about the B2B side of it? Because I had worked for a manufacturer, right? So I wanted to explore that other side, and I decided to take this great opportunity with a plastics company. And what they do is like colors and additives for plastics and all of that. And then I said, oh my God, what have I done? Because it was so far from everything else. And yet I discovered myself within that, because I ended up working with giants like Unilever, Procter & Gamble, or Shell, developing with their marketing teams, developing products and colors and those concepts to bring them to market. So again, still very far from all the online pieces and everything. So at that point, my husband and I decided to immigrate to Canada. And so nice little segue into Canada, still within the same industry. And then I got recruited into the automotive industry. And that's when I started really touching more on the online piece and on the product side, I would say, more than anything. And of course, as years go by, the online piece is more and more and more and more interesting. So then that brought me to NAPA. And with NAPA, I'm in charge of all the e-com, both B2B and B2C. So in the beginning, it was only B2C. And as things progress, and my passion to bring really solutions and to connect with audiences brought us to I would say like a decision point in which, because our B2B was always very sheltered, and because it's typically considered a captive audience, right? So you have an e-com platform for B2B, but only people that are sort of members can access that platform. So it's kind of like a captive audience. But then I saw that there was just so much opportunity in that aspect as well, because it was being treated as sort of like an afterthought, just kind of like keeping with the motions. And so we decided to bring all the dynamics of, B2C, e-com into the B2B side. And right now what we're working on is like a complete revamp of the B2B side to feel and to behave more like a regular consumer e-com platform. And the reason for that is we're all consumers in our everyday life, whether you're a B2B customer, B2C, or whatever. Everybody's consuming on Amazon. Everybody's ordering online. Everybody has an experience and an opinion, right? And so our journey, what we wanted to do is really approach those two concepts and give those experiences to all of our customers. So while we're working continuously on improving the experiences with the B2C customers with napacanada.com, at the same time, we're also always thinking, okay, how can we improve the experience and how can we make it better for our B2B customers as well? And it's a fun journey of discovering what works on one side versus the other side, what customers are reacting to versus what is perhaps great on a boardroom meeting, but not really great for the customer, because you tend to want to do everything at the same time. And then, sometimes the added value for the customer is not really there. And so I like the fact that we're able to have very agile teams and, just market test everything. I always say it's online. Anything is possible and anything can be pulled from the shelf in a way if it's not working. So I think the fact that we're much more in tune with our audiences works really well for everybody. So
yeah, I love the fact that you're saying, because I really work on the premise that it's business to customer, and whether it's B2B or B2C, it's still just business to customer, and they're just a different persona that you're trying to service, whether in our case it's a DIYer, a fixer, a pro, a business to business. It's a persona that you're trying to sell to on your digital landscape. So if you build out all of those different shopping journeys, you can still service them from the same platform, and leverage a lot of the same tactics that you're doing for a general consumer versus a business consumer. But if you lay out those personas as part of your planning and identify that up front, it saves you from having multiple platforms, multiple people working on projects, because you just consider it as part of the shopping funnel, and the customers, those types of customers just go through a different shopping funnel than a general consumer.
No, exactly. And to me, it's all about the messaging as well. I think the only thing that we need to customize really to make sure that we're being relevant to our audience is the ultimate messaging. But like you said, it's the funnel. So the origin is the same, and then you can bring them into different journeys along the way. And it's how you communicate, what kind of messaging do you use for one or the other, so that you keep that customer engagement. Because if you're talking, for example, if I'm talking to one of my garages, right, which is my B2B type of customer, and I'm using consumer messaging for the do-it-yourselfer, oftentimes, well, not only does it not appeal to them, but they're in a way resentful of the lack of professional messaging to them. Now, I don't want to say resentful, but they're probably just not as engaged with that kind of, they don't engage as well with that kind of messaging.
Right, because they have different expectations. They want different, they talk the talk, they live the language, so they want to have stuff structured in a different vocabulary, because they maybe understand acronyms that are really key to the industry, versus a general consumer that maybe needs to have it written out because they're just buying a piece to fix their car, versus a mechanic who's going to be, really looking at the whole experience with that vehicle, and not just looking at one item. They're going to be like, if they have to take off that tire to fix something, you can bet they're looking at every other element that they can get their eyes on to really make sure that driver's safe, and talk about a complete purchase versus just an item at a price. So I can see that. It's not resentful, but they do want to be absorbing their content differently.
I would say one of the biggest challenges, well, not challenges, one of the biggest advantages actually is our added value in our value proposition to our customers is NAPA know-how. So if you're not showing in your messaging that you know and understand what they need and how they speak, like you said, and those acronyms and whatever information you might want to convey to a B2B customer versus a B2C, well, then where's the NAPA know-how?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then if you do that, if you speak in the same terms to a do-it-yourselfer, you're probably just overwhelming them, and they just disengage, right?
Like a do-it-yourselfer is going to need like the 15 steps to complete a project, whereas the folks that are already living and breathing it every day, they don't need those. They just need to know the performance of the item that they're buying, the quality of it, the return process if they need to, but they're not going to need a step-by-step instruction manual on how to change the brakes.
Exactly. And not only that, but like you said, a B2B customer, like a garage, might be looking for other different pieces of the vehicle that might need some assistance or might need some repairs to make them safe. Whereas the do-it-yourselfer, they're trying to fix something that they found it was broken. So there's a difference between a professional doing it versus a do-it-yourselfer, but there's also in the intent, right? So a do-it-yourselfer wants to fix whatever is broken or whatever needs attention, whereas a professional will look for other things that need to be done so that the vehicles are safe. And so
the common thread between the two journeys is the level of content. You really require a content strategy for both of them to make sure that they are engaged differently, but actually get to the components that they need, whether it be video content, step-by-step, blogs, buying guides, et cetera, and the content strategy is key to having both of them engaged and sticky to the website.
No, absolutely. And like you said, the content is different for one versus the other, but I think the very important part is we're trying to integrate content as much as we can in our promotional vehicles, for example. And to me, that's all part of the context. And I don't want to just sell a product to a customer. I want to make sure that I'm being relevant to them in their everyday life. And so, for example, let's think about, a flyer. So we have our paper flyers like everybody does and our online flyers. So we're always embedding blog posts and QR codes to bring them to additional articles that might help them. So for example, if we have the section on the flyer, which is for oil change, we also want to give you that content, whether it's on print or it's on digital platforms, a simple QR code to bring you to the blog post where you talk about all those steps. How do you change your oil? You have never done it. Well, here's the how-to, and also all the products that you need to make that happen. So we're trying to do that more and more. I think it's very important to marry all the content that we're developing online, because as you know, that's really the key in the game these days, is to develop the right kind of content and the right cadence as well, right?
Right. And I think, by having a B2B relationship as well, it also allows you to have this mechanism, because they're on the front line with customers. So if you're leveraging those garages, then they can give you really good feedback about the content you're providing for their customer online, because I'm sure they don't want to sit there and explain every single product to a consumer. They would rather redirect them to your website to say, okay, you can go get some information and do some of that research yourself before you even talk to me. So I think it's great that you have a mechanism such as those B2B to help build a content strategy or find out features, different tools and components that a general consumer will want, because you're getting that real feedback one-to-one from the businesses.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that we want to incorporate more and more is leveraging the strength of that network. Think about product reviews, for example. You can have product reviews. You can have users review products that they have tried themselves. You could have the companies offering different reviews. You could also have professionals giving their opinion. And that's a different, I think, at least, I don't know how you look at it. And I would be curious to hear about that. When I look at reviews in my personal life, yes, for sure, I fall like everybody on the star system and I start looking at it. And if it's really bad, I will be like, okay. But then I take the time, if it's a product that I really want, or that I've done my research and it's something that I really think that it could be good for me, I go into the reviews and I read them, because the reviews might not, so the stars might not be pertinent. The grievances of some customers might not be pertinent to my needs. And so, excuse me. And so when I read those reviews, think about it like this. You're going to have a product that's going to have whatever stars, and then you could have consumers, do-it-yourselfers that have tried and used it. But then you could also have a pro giving their opinion in terms of the performance of that. Because, I think there's something there that needs to be explore further, and we're looking to explore it.
I agree. I've lost confidence in ratings and reviews because I don't think they're badged correctly, and I don't have confidence. Like sometimes someone will rate that the product is 2, but they didn't like the service from a customer, from a sales associate. Well, the product is not really a 2. The brand or the store experience is a 2. That's what they meant to rate and evaluate, but they went and they put that towards a product. So it's a big disconnect. And if you don't go and you read the language that someone's put in there, then you're misguided on why those reviews are so low. The other piece with it is I just think that there's a difference, like you said, the pro versus a general consumer and how they use the product. So some of the features and benefits of that product that might be important to someone that's using it on a daily, weekly basis. Like I've seen where a power bank, for example, the power bank only charges 5 times and someone wanted it to charge 20 times. Well, I don't need my phone charged that often. I just use a power bank as backup in my backpack so I can get that extra charge if I'm traveling. So if it charges 1 time or 5 times, I'm happy with it versus someone that needs it to charge 20 times. So yeah, I think ratings reviews you have to go a little bit deeper. I would like to see them badged more. So it's more of a authenticated review, and I can decide, do I want to filter by, I don't know, an influencer that's rated it, or competition, or a brand, or a general consumer that's rated it, and then give me these filters to go through them more effectively. But right now, I honestly, if I want a product, I'm not leveraging ratings reviews. They might be a barometer for me, but I'd rather make that judgment. Most times there's a good return policy on products now anyways.
Yeah.
I'd rather judge it myself.
Yeah. And that's why I read those reviews, in the sense that, the stars are good, but I want to make sure that whatever's being reported is actually pertinent. Right.
And I do think it's up to the retailer, though. Like we have to do a better job of filtering those out. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I think, we're providing the content, right? So in terms of content, do we want it to be misleading like that? Or do we want our users and our customers to be able to rely on those? So what do you think about, for example, there's some brands that started putting some keywords to their reviews. And so the point system, let's say, is based on what the retailer wants, or the manufacturer wants their product to be reviewed on. Could be durability, could be fit, or whatever it may be. Do you think that could maybe help with some of the challenges?
Yeah, I think there's key features and benefits to any item, and you want to make sure that those hot buttons that a customer is considering are easy to index and are transparent to a customer. That if I'm big into ice fishing, and I just purchased myself a new shelter for ice fishing, and the important piece to me was, is it insulated or not, so I'm not freezing out on the ice. So when you first start doing a query online, you look at shelters, but then it gives you a laundry list of 40 of them. And then I have to start making filters of like, okay, I need it for 2 people, 4 people, 6 people. And then but having those key features in ratings and reviews about how good it is from being insulated or not would have been something that I would desire to see as a customer, because that was forget 2, 4, 6 people. If it wasn't insulated, that was my starting point, because I'm a big baby when it comes to being outside. I need to be comfortable.
Well, you're ice fishing. What do you want?
Right, exactly. I want to be glamping out on the ice.
Exactly. Okay, so you're a glamping type of ice fisher.
That's right. I'm not the traditional old school guys that sit there in a chair with the wind and their beard frozen. No, that is not me.
Yeah, I was picturing you with a plaid shirt and
right. No, I've
No.
got my tablet playing movies. I've got a fishing rod in a couple of holes, and sometimes even when I go out with my son, he's got a sleeping bag and a cot laying down. So it's
Oh my
it
God.
is definitely glamping. But really, though, when it comes to that question, though, I
Yeah.
do believe the more filters on ratings and reviews to allow me to get to that information that's relevant to me, the more we can do stuff like that, the better. As long as it's authentic, and that I'll keep coming
Absolutely.
back to that. It has to be authentic. It can't just be a buzzword. It can't just be something that's clickbait. It has to be authentic, because the minute that you do that to me once, I am now never trusting your website.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's such a fine line. We owe it to our customers to remain authentic in anything we do. And this actually reminds me of, we just had this conversation this week with the team. We're preparing some of the materials for, the different events that we have in the year, like Mother's Day, Father's Day, and all of that. And, everybody starts thinking about, okay, so what kind of messaging do we want to put out there? How do we make it relevant for everybody and all of that? And I said, well, the very first thing is that it needs to be authentic to us and to our audiences, to our customers. I don't want just to put products. I'll give you an example. And this is the biggest joke within, I would say, even the automotive industry, because, it's very male
Centric. Yep.
Yes. And so when Mother's Day comes along, it's like, oh my God, what do we put for Mother's Day? And kind of like the first instinct of many people is to put pink stuff. And
Right. A pink steering wheel cover.
And I'm like, please, as a woman, I beg you, do not pink wash, because I find that offensive.
Right.
And so we said, okay, so how can we remain authentic with the products that we have, with the audience that we have? And so we're developing all of our different campaigns and what kind of content we're going to develop, for the different events that make sense, and that you can actually touch the core of, the automotive industry, but also related to those different events. So we're planning something for International Women's Day, for Mother's Day, for Father's Day, but not your usual cookie cutter type of content, because I think we owe it to our audiences to remain who we are and to represent we talked about personas, the persona of our brand.
Yeah,
right?
I love that. I mean, just because there's an event on calendar, if it's not relevant to your category or your department, then skip it 100%. Yeah. You're better off doing that than to, like, even in traditional retail, I don't know how many times you see, and it's still funny today. And maybe some moms are okay with it, but it's the amount of appliances or vacuums that are marketed towards moms still today. And like I said, some of them may appreciate it, but can we not be more creative than that with what we're suggesting as gifts for mom?
And can we please have fun with it? Because
Right.
I'm a mom, and we all like to have fun. Like, does it have to be solemn? And does it have to be like diamonds and flowers? And, like, there's more things to life than that. And like you said, we have so many types of different moms, just like, dads or
yeah.
And to your point, like, do we really need an Easter basket in the automotive industry? I don't think so.
Right,
So
right.
we're just going to skip, that Easter situation.
And you can, as a retailer, you can send out a thoughtful message to say Happy Easter and enjoy the season, but it doesn't have to be a promotional event.
Exactly. You can acknowledge it, but you don't have to. Like, I feel like if you're trying to just push every single event in the calendar to connect with your audience, well, that's not authentic, because it depends on who your customers and your audiences are, right? Like, I don't know, if you're a dollar store, well, that's pertinent, because that's where you go and buy all those things for the different, little events. But in our case, I think I would rather remain authentic, and I think you do too, and that's so core,
Yeah, agreed. So, hey, we're already 30 minutes into
Oh my
this.
God.
I know, right? So let's quickly shift gears a little bit here. And first of all, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can send me an email, honestly, but I would rather if they contact me through LinkedIn. So you can just search for my LinkedIn, and I'm pretty open to receiving messages, requests, and all of that. I had a professor once when I was doing the MBA, and said, you know what, guys, take advantage of networks in LinkedIn. Nobody is going to tell you, I don't have time to answer your question, or I don't have time. Oftentimes people want to share experiences and want to help other people. So I'm here if anybody needs me.
Yeah, that was a critical learning for me early on is how many great people there are in our industry. It's like there's this competitiveness between businesses and your competition, but at the same time, from a peer-to-peer level, there's this great appetite to support each other, help each other, make sure we don't fail, and we just overall grow the industry. And I really appreciate that about my network, and especially connecting with people like yourself on LinkedIn and being able to expand that network and just be collaborative with one another and share best practices. Because if we can grow the overall industry of e-commerce and get more people adapting to it, then all of our success goes up.
Absolutely.
And then I guess my last couple of questions as we start to wrap up this podcast is 2022, coming off of the last 2 crazy years of COVID. What are some of the opportunities, challenges, and then maybe some of the upside that you see going into 2022?
So I think we can all agree that logistics and supply chain has been severely disrupted through the last couple of years, and that I expect will continue in 2022, regardless of how strong your network is, regardless of all the contacts in the world that you might have. It's a challenge, and I think everybody is going to face that. I think one of the opportunities, though, is how do you make sure that you're staying on top of it? How do you make sure that you're also pivoting and maybe finding some of the products that you had that were maybe less, turning at a slower pace, and see, is there a home for them, and is this something that could fulfill a need in lieu of something else? So I think we owe it to ourselves to remain flexible on our feet, and to find those opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. The concept of sell what's available today was taught to me by Future Shop 20 something years ago. And it's so funny when you get into retail, all you do is consider, how do I comp last year's sales? And you get into this routine of saying, okay, we sold this widget, so now we have to sell 10% more of that widget because we advertised it at this time, versus, hey, we need to hit this sales target. What category can drive the sales into this target? It doesn't have to be the same widget that we sold last year, the same category that we sold last year. It's what within our assortment can we sell to drive those numbers. And I think we lose sight of that because we're so busy trying to comp last year's numbers and make sure that the same categories are still growing. But it's not necessarily true, especially in this environment. You may not be able to comp the same category as last year because you just don't have the inventory. So where can you find growth?
And what about what the customer needs? I mean,
Right.
There's a maturity also with some categories and some products. Maybe you've reached your limit and you cannot comp last year because you've reached maturity, right?
Yeah.
And there's also customer fatigue. So I think all of those things need to be taken into consideration and seeing, okay, so like you said, we've had a very unique last 2 years. Well, the needs of our customers probably change. So what do we need to do to make sure that we're being a good partner to our customers? So I think that's the biggest opportunity. Yes, it's a challenge, but at the same time, I think it's a good opportunity for you to rethink the way that we're bringing products to market and all of that.
Yeah, I love that. I think customers have matured. We've learned to pivot so fast that we really need to reevaluate what our customers' expectations are going forward. could be faster delivery. Hell, they could actually be more patient with us than ever because of dealing with stuff. And maybe urgency is no longer as important, that they can wait 5 or 6 days versus next day delivery. But I think re-engaging with our consumers to find out what their true expectations are. It should be done all the time, but especially now coming through the last couple of years. Hey, thank you so much for this conversation. I look forward to continuing our dialogue offline and building a relationship. And I know I got to get out to Montreal and visit some stores with you, because that would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
So thank you once again. You've been a fantastic guest.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. And I love discussing with you, and I love everything that you guys are doing. So thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. We'll do it again.
Okay, awesome.
You've been listening to Delivering E-commerce. It's our passion to have on leaders and suppliers in e-commerce from around the globe, setting you and your strategy up for the next level. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. Connect with Chris on LinkedIn at Chris Parsons, on LinkedIn and Spotify at Delivering E-commerce, or on YouTube at Chris Parsons Delivering E-commerce. Till next time, this is Delivering E-commerce.